Welcome, everyone. Welcome to tonight's EXO Metaverse Hangout call that we do on the second Fridays and the fourth Fridays of every month. So we're so excited to have everybody here tonight. So the EXO Metaverse is a citizen science platform, right, to explore other dimensions and non-human intelligences. And we want to kind of take out the middleman in all this and build a consortium of organizations that are working in this field and support them with cutting edge, next level software that we can all share for free. We just got our nonprofits filed and we are live on that last week. So we're really excited about that. And we have consortium members like ET Let's Talk, right? We do an amazing map for them every month. And Nadi Hana is also in our consortium here. She's from Galactic Rose Sacred Geometry, and she does these incredible workshops many times per month. I'm going to share her link here in the chat. And, you know, our goal is really to be a network of networks. So if you know an organization that's working in disclosure, that's working in other, you know, understanding other dimensions, or that is, you know, in this, we want them part of our family. We want to support them with this software and technology. So if we meet once a month on Thursdays, right? Karen is here, Rob's here. We have Greg who's programming, Daniel's is programming. All these people that are part of the consortium are here tonight. And we welcome you, if you have an organization, to join us for that strategy meeting that we have so we can sync our efforts as this process of disclosure goes by. So I would, like I said, Nadi is incredible. She has invited one of her friends that she has met in the EXO Studies class, which is this year-long deep dive into everything to do with this phenomenon, right? Every week they take these new topics. It's the basis for a master's and a PhD program that Sean is doing. He was also one of our interviewees. So John Ramirez has worked his whole life, you know, starting with his curiosity, and he's worked in the electromagnetic signature lab, right? Understanding electronic information in the CIA. And he's retired now. He's really able to pursue something that he's been fascinated with his whole life. So I'm going to hand it over to Nadi and John.
Thank you, Zenka. It is just feels brilliant to be here. It just feels really generative about really, I would say cutting edge, but just really alive, you know, frontiers of us not being alone in the universe, of, you know, the deeper questions of life. And of course, when I, you know, wanted to interview somebody for this call, it was John, who is completely fascinating when he's talking about the metaphysics of life and cutting edge, you know, extraterrestrials, the exo world, and really, really happy to have this opportunity to talk with him. So you mentioned the EXO Studies call, the year-long course, and that is led by Sean Esbjorn Hargens. And John joined us about a couple weeks ago, and as soon as he dropped in with his information, we were all just hooked. Like, we just wanted more. And so when you asked, you know, do you know anybody fascinating to interview? I said, I absolutely know somebody fascinating. And so John came in, you know, to my world through the EXO Studies class, but interestingly enough, he came in first through a light language call that I was hosting. And I wanted to get together with people to explore what light language is in, you know, it's nonlinear galactic communication, channeled transmission information. And he joined that call. And it was fascinating because he and I were talking light language. He saw this code. I shared a piece of art and he saw this code, and he was talking about how it was like it was, John, I hope if I botch this, just clarify, please. It was like a map home. It was like a star map home for him. And he spoke up and shared that. I was like, oh my God, this is a brother. Here we go. So we met on my call, and then totally surprisingly, the next day he showed up on this EXO Studies call. And I was like, you know, talking about being you know, a former CIA officer, and the mismatch between the two, like the dissonance. I was just so curious. And every time he shares his information, it's fascinating across the whole spectrum. That's the thing, is he's not like this, a stereotypical CIA agent where it's, completely technical and ship recovery, or technology, or the things on the survey, all of the things on the survey. He's much more rounded than that. And so he and I were talking, and the passion here is to talk about the metaphysics of the CIA, right? Um, and like open up the concept of what it means to be in an agency that has access, like backdoor access. So he's got all that. I'm so excited to. That's kind of my informal intro of how we know each other, and he'll launch with all of his experience, 25 years as an officer, and I'm so looking forward. I think he's pretty much just gonna take off and share some of his experiences, and we'll just flow with it and see what comes of it. But easy flow. So John, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. And first of all, the CIA would like for me to say this as a disclaimer, that everything that you hear and see does not in any way reflect the plans, policies, and intentions of the Central Intelligence Agency. I'm appearing as a private citizen who happened to have worked for CIA for 25 years, from 1984 to 2009. So I've been retired quite some time now, a dozen years.
Whether you want to call it contact experience or had a significant download in your early years, that you kept being informed and sort of had access to all this information that you just shared, even though you had no way of knowing these things, right? You kept getting downloads, and you're going to talk about the source of that. And I think that's where we're going to go into next, just to let everybody know we're going to nibble at some of his the guidance and bridge the physics with the metaphysics.
Sure. And you want me to launch into that now before the breakout? I can do that very quickly, or wait.
Oh yeah, well, why don't you talk a little bit about it, and then we'll go into breakout groups. That's
okay.
fine.
So for me, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I had these recurring dreams or visions of me being led by a woman into a house that looked like a Victorian house. There was nothing around it except this, like a walkway through a gate, walk through the gate, and there's what I would call a Victorian house, the one with the little turret to one side. Nice little A-frame house with a nice little porch outside. And she would lead me to it, walk in, and sometimes I'll go up the stairs to the left, sometimes I'll go on the first floor to the left. On either floor, I would be led into an examination room where a doctor, looking like a Victorian doctor, and all around me were like Victorian looking medical equipment, tables and whatnot. Everything looks very Victorian. The cabinets, the jars where they would store pharmaceuticals of the day, and they would examine me. And I had this many times. I asked my mother about it, and she said, "There's no such thing. I never took you to any such place, never." And then my parents realized that I was always interested in space, talking about space. I couldn't stop talking about space. They bought me a telescope. And I used to go out with my telescope, and one of the greatest joys of my early life, and I still remember, was when I actually found the Andromeda Galaxy with that telescope in Cassiopeia. And I just stared at it. And it was just a little disc, because it was just a, not a professional telescope, but something you give a kid. But I found it. And I used to stare up there. And I used to, what I used to ask myself? I used to ask myself, I wonder who's staring back at me, wondering if I'm staring at them. And that was just a profound experience for me. Later, as I grew into my teen years, we moved to a house, and for some reason outside of my bedroom, I wanted to plant sunflower seeds. And for the strangest reason, I said, I want to plant these sunflower seeds so they know where to find me, because I want them to find me. And sure enough, they found me. And I remember being lifted out of my bedroom through that screen window up into a craft. And I remember being held in the hands of some being. And this corridor was circular, and it was all lit up in like the most brilliant white without having any lights. And there the dream stopped. But guess what happened? The next day, there were markings on my body. There were markings on I could not explain. And then as I grew up in my older teen years, in my high school years, I actually had this dream or vision of being in a place where nothing but light beings around me. And then I was just floating with these fellow light beings. I felt like I was really home, that this is where I belong. And a voice came and said, came over and said, it's time for you to go back. Choose who do you want to be this time? Who do you want to be this time? And I looked over this field of, the only way I can describe it is imagine a giant infinite egg carton full of eggs. And instead of eggs, imagine that they're like spheres of different colors swirling around it, smoky colors, all brightly lit. And I picked one, it was blue and white. And I said, I want to be this one. And boom, I remember being born. And so that was just always been profound. And I've always had these inklings of what I'm going to do. I knew what school I was going to go to. I knew I would be married very late in life, which happened to me. I went to the school I thought I would go to. I knew I would be in the Navy, and I was in the Navy. And I also knew I was going to go to the CIA because in the 7th or 8th grade, I had to write a vocational kind of essay. What do you want to be when you grow up? You remember those? And I was the only one that wanted to be a spy in the CIA. And everybody laughed at me, of course. They didn't laugh 25 years later at my class reunion. So I had that as well. And so something led me to CIA, something did. And from there, I discovered a lot of many interesting things. Many things that you would consider maybe some aspects of disclosure, that things were actually true. And most recently, Convergence 2020, if you're participating in that, Mark Sims had a little session with his radios where he toned hue through the radios. And sure enough, there was a conscious, Close Encounters 6 experience where my wife and I saw over the Catalina Mountains of Tucson, this brilliant white orb appear over the mountains. It blinked in, stayed for a few seconds and blinked out. And both my wife and I received messages. And the message for me, and I have not revealed this before, but I'll reveal it to you. The message is that you have a message to share. You have knowledge to share, and we're waiting for you to share it. There will be a pathway. You will meet people. You will be participating in some way of being able to share these. And your purpose here, you need to make contact with an individual because that individual is just looking for you to make contact with them. You don't know who it is yet, but you will meet them and you will share with them something that they've been wondering about all their lives. And so that's my contact experience. And I'm sure many of you have had many profound ones just like that.
Spectacular. I'm wondering,
Wow, that was amazing.
yeah, there was a little bit of a teaser in there of, the CIA and the disclosure. And I went, okay, were all the survey questions true? Do you want to just, that seems
Yes,
like
all the
We'll
survey
oh,
questions.
do we have to wait? What do
No,
we have?
that's fine. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, everything I said, as far as picked which ones the COA was involved in, every one of them was true. Every single one of them was true. And of course, I put an easy one in there of destabilizing governments, and everybody knows that. But there's 2 different CIAs. There's a CIA between 1947 and 1977. That was one CIA. Then there's a CIA between 1977 and 1982, 81, 82. That was an intermediate CIA. And then we're in a modern CIA. The early CIA was the bad CIA that you all read about, that you all read books about. They make movies about the bad CIA. We're nowhere near like that anymore. We're not like that. You'll find officers talking about what I talk about more often than what you see in the movies. We're not the Bourne identity. We're nowhere not like that. And so all of those were true.
Okay, great. So, so many places I want to go. So, John, the message that came to you, the downloads with you and your wife from the orb at the CE, at the convergence. I'm going to go back to that moment. Can we go there together?
Sure.
Okay, great. And, I also want to just let you riff, and you got the message of, you have important things to share, and you're going to be connecting with people who are going to help you do that. Do you have a clear idea of what the message is that you're sharing? I mean, you've shared so much in this past hour. It could really be, do you think it's any one thing, or is it everything? Or, have you dipped into that?
It's very personal for an individual. Very, very personal.
Right. Yeah.
In general, what I'm doing through Exo studies, and I will also be joining Sean in his Everything You Want to Know About UFOs, or whatever that's called, the
Right.
short course.
Mm-hmm.
There are many things I shared in that realm that I guess I give some level of verification to, because a lot of people get inklings of this and that and whatever. Some of them are conspiracy theories. Some of them are really, really, really true.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're seeking validation. If anything, what disclosure by the government, official disclosure, will do is to validate what we already verified for ourselves. Okay. I don't need President Biden to stand up before a podium and tell me that they're extraterrestrials. I know that already. I don't need it, but some people do. Some people need that validation. That's fine. If that serves a purpose for validation, that's fine. And I always tell people, I don't need NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX to go out in space. My spaceship is what you see right here before you. All of us have the ability to travel if you know how. If you, like I was saying before, if you tune your electromagnetic fields, if you take care of your body, watch what you eat and drink, watch what you put into your body. Let's get rid of the poisons that are in our food, manufactured by big agriculture. Try to seek out natural ways of helping you, because if you go to big pharma, all they're treating are the symptoms created by the other drugs you're taking. And you take drug after drug after drug. There are many natural ways of healing yourself through tuning yourself. The body is very powerful. It has everything it needs to fix itself. But we forgot how to do that. And I think in the near future, we will soon discover those ways as we become more awakened and aware of our real true natures.
You and I had talked a lot about meditation practices, and I really would love to touch on that at some point if we get to. But the question that just popped in for me is, as I'm taking everything that you're saying in, and we've been talking about this metaphysics and physics, and so you've got this whole contact, higher consciousness connection, and being informed and being connected to, whether it's star nations or however you would refer to it. You've got that reality going on, and then you've got, being in the CIA, and that was, the secondary CIA. That was cool to learn that there were two different kinds or eras, and so being in the CIA with all of the technical and the scientific and the practical application strategies, for lack of better words. And so you're moving in this world with two very different realities. And I know most of us do, right? This is what Sean has talked about. Oh no, it's been so long. Somebody help me out. Not doubleness, right? Where we've got two existing realities that may not mesh. And I'm wondering, were you an odd duck at the CIA, or did you have good company? You had good company. Okay, will you just say a little bit about that?
Yes, I've met more people who were experiencers in CIA than anywhere else, except for communities like this.
Yeah.
For some reason, they were all led to be there. Mm-hmm. And they had the wherewithal then with the accesses. We have carved on our lobby a verse from the New Testament. I'm paraphrasing, but you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Mm-hmm. And we are observers and discoverers of truth. And our job is to present that truth to those who we entrust to make decisions, policy decisions on our behalf. If you don't like what the CIA is doing, look at who people voted for, because we will in fact mirror in some cases who people have elected. And I use this as an example. How do we know about President Trump's Ukraine call? How do we know who actually brought it to light? It was a CIA officer who blew the whistle. A CIA officer, unafraid, because he knew the truth, that blew the whistle, that started everything, the avalanche of everything falling down. That's the best way I can say it. It's just that I'm in contact with people now who tell me things, that they know I'm part of this group, they know that I'm part of Exo Studies, and they also are very interested. And we used to discuss back in Coast to Coast AM, we used to have lunchtime discussions of us getting together, talking about, what did you hear on Coast to Coast AM last night? Oh, yes. But we had the access to actually look into what many people said. And a lot of people, unfortunately, came on these shows that were complete fabricators. They just threw in a lot of poison in ufology, which really hurt me. And I said, Chief, if I ever had a chance to clear that up, I want to do that. I used to be a database administrator of a discussion group. Basically, it's like the Exo Studies, all of the different various discussion groups we had, and we talked about everything. You know what some of the things we talked about?
No, that's why we're here, is we want to know.
The Anunnaki, the existence of possible, the Anunnaki, the existence of humans are still here that broke away from the main civilization, the existence of Atlantis, of the Lemuria, the fact that we may have been seeded deliberately, the fact that Mars was full of life at one time, the fact that there's a galactic headquarters, and there's actual CIA documents through technical remote viewing that was moderated or facilitated by someone you might know named Major Ed Dames. And the remote viewer was Mel Riley. And he saw this galactic headquarters and described it in great detail. We know these things. So I would say the CIA was just rich in that environment of discovering things that other people might take for granted or not even discuss. We shut down the remote viewing program because some very conservative politicians thought that we were playing with demonic forces. And they made a big stink about it, and they had the power of the purse, and they took all the money away. So what do we do? So all those remote viewers went to places like the Monroe Institute, the Universal Light Center in Black Mountain, North Carolina, the Farsight Institute in Atlanta, Georgia, to continue this remote viewing. And so I would say, it was not unusual. I was not unusual at all.
Okay. So it's like Zenka's got a question. Should we just go with that, Zenka? Because I have
no. Yeah, go for it. You do your thing, but this is just there. It's just, I don't know.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think
like,
if questions do come in, that's the whole idea, is that this is generative and it's so juicy. So you were in good company and you had meetings to get together and talk about these things with like-minded. And, I love that you said, for some reason we were drawn to the CIA. I think there's a real curious point in there, like, ooh, what was it? Like, did you figure out the connectivity? Did you, were you able to go into it while navigating your day-to-day life in the CIA? So that's all this fun curiosity. And where that takes me is, like, I'm really struck by this duality, right? Or seemingly duality, right? And it was manifest in the fact that I met you through a light language class, and you kind of referenced the CIA. I thought, oh, that's cool. And then come to find out, you 25 years a retired CIA officer. And so there's part of me of like, what was the psychology? How did you merge this place where it seems like maybe you went into the CIA to access some of that higher consciousness, right? That was a route that you took. But I hope I can articulate this. You know,
Yes.
what was the psychology of
No.
wanting a map home and learning about darker technologies that are influencing the world? You know, it's fascinating, that part of
Right.
it.
Yes. I was always interested in the nuts and bolts side of ufology, and a lot of people are more into the nuts and bolts side. I find that to be very boring. I am more interested in the side of higher consciousness. To me, it's fascinating, the higher consciousness aspect of ufology. And a lot of people don't go there because they're afraid to go there. They think it's too bizarre. I remember we had a brilliant physicist in ufology. He's passed. I admired him a great deal. His name was Stanton Friedman. And he was the last physicist, a true physicist in ufology. We don't have someone of that caliber right now who has that kind of reach. But he never wanted to bridge that. When we have, I used to attend, okay, here's one. I used to attend CIA, I used to attend conference, UFO conferences, MUFON, you name it. I was there. I was there with CIA colleagues. And before I could go, it's required by Office of Security. Anytime you participate in external activities, you have to file a permission to do so. And so I would say, I'm going to a UFO conference and here it's at, and so on this date and this date, and I'm going to stay here, and here are my flights. And they always bless me, go, fine. And so there's an aspect of CIA that accepts all that. And also during my reinvestigations, every 5 years we get reinvestigated so that we can continue our clearances, but make sure that we're not abusing our privilege of having this very secret information. And they asked me, what is your hobby, Mr. Ramirez? And I go, oh, I like to research UFOs. I like to research extraterrestrials. And so, oh, okay. And they write that down. It's not like, what, you're crazy. No, they write it down. I'm not the only one doing this. And the only time that backfired on me is when some of my officers were being briefed on these secret Navy programs. And because of my interest in ufology, they didn't want me as part of this program, so they don't want someone who might have been tainted with some kind of preconceived views or notions of ufology. So I didn't get briefed into these Navy programs. The other program I didn't get briefed in was when we saw orbs. And I could talk about orbs a little bit. We saw a lot of orbs. This leads into ATIP and everything that's happening with UAP task force and this report that's supposed to be coming out in the spring. We saw these orbs a long time ago when we finally turned on, we finally developed and turned on certain sensors in our spacecraft that were able to look into wavelengths of light that we previously could not see. And sure enough, we saw all of these orbs. And they were not like random orbs of nature. They were not like something induced by solar winds or solar magnetism. These were flying. They were together. They were intelligently controlled and flying together with a purpose. What is that? Are they Russian? Are they Chinese? They're not ours. That launched an entire study into these. And as part of that study, I sent 2 of my engineers. Remember, they're electromagnetic engineers. I worked in a field actually called ELINT, E-L-I-N-T, which is a lot of words. It stands for electronic intelligence. It's a type of signals intelligence, the kind that Edward Snowden revealed. This is signals intelligence in the electromagnetic spectrum, not radios and communications and cell phones that Snowden revealed about. This is like more higher frequencies. And they got briefed and they went to a place where a lot of folks got together to talk about this. They came back and they said they got read into some very special access programs. I was not read into this. I got read into a level as a supervisor. You lose all the fun. All your people get all the fun. And I was read into the point where I can perform my supervisory duties. But I wasn't read into the actual meat of the subject matter. But they came back and they go, and I hope I'm not getting them into trouble. They came back, hey, John, you know everything you ever heard about Roswell? I say, yep. And they go, yep. It's my affirmation that Roswell actually happened. And I've had other affirmations since then that I cannot reveal. If I did reveal them, I don't know what would happen to me. I'll probably be called before, well, I'll probably be called before the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence to say, what do you really know, John? But other people do know about these things. And so if that's any validation, that's the only validation I give you, short of President Biden standing up there and telling you the same thing. What happened at Roswell actually happened. The government knows about it.
Yeah.
And the government does not want you to know about it. Because back then, during the Cold War, there was a great fear that people would not be able to process this. In order to process it, people will have to raise their consciousness to do that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't know if the LSD we distributed to college campuses, to Professor Timothy Leary and other college professors to experiment on, may have launched a new age movement, may have raised people's consciousness in that chemical way. But the fact that we had the Summer of Love, that people were like questioning authority and things like that, that kind of fit into what the CIA needed done. We needed people to be receptive to the point where CIA actually contributed some information to science fiction movies.
Yeah.
That showed aliens in it. Not all benevolent, but mostly very friendly aliens in them. And so I would say, yes, that I felt like I was drawn to it, but so were many others. And for me, it's, in a way, it was validation for me to be there, but I already verified everything before I even stepped into the halls of CIA.
Right. Right. What I love is that the conversation can take us towards talking about consciousness. Right. And I see some hands up, but that's, for me, there's a real meat in there. I'm with you when I'm kind of like not interested in crash retrieval. I know, is it real? Is it not real? Like that for me, like, okay, cool. I want to hang out in the, the consciousness, the like, how did we use CIA technology to launch into Merkaba activation and our higher capacities, and that's where that's where it's at. I think a lot of the questions are coming out on that line as well too, so I'd like to go into a few of them. But I love how you acknowledge both sides. You weave together that this information is really like in service of our expansion, right? That's one of the drums I beat a lot. And so to me, that uplifts the CIA in my perspective of like, oh yeah, it really could be used for our benefit. And there are lots of ways that it was, from what I'm hearing. But I love that you point towards the higher consciousness piece of it, and how a lot of us, there's so many great questions. We started with the orbs there for a minute, and then Jay Paul had a question about orange orbs, and then there's also, I know Court's got his hand up, so let's see, now that was just a teaser for Jay Paul if I dropped that. Are there any?
We can have one question. I'm going to be bringing the people back from break, and then we're going to be able to share the contact experiences, and then any other question. If there is time, we'll be able to do questions. So, so pick a good one. This could be your last one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so then if Court always has such great questions, if he's got his hands up, should we wait? Should we go for him, or should I go?
Yeah, let's go for him. Let's pull him out of here.
Go for it.
Let me try to find you, Court. Okay, got you.
Court's part of our Exo Studies group, so he's a very familiar face.
Awesome.
John, thank you so much, and Nadi, for bringing us all together. And just extending, John, the theme of physics and metaphysics. What is your experience telling you about the presence of shadow in the larger universe? The presence of all of the shadows that we know we have in terms of our human experience, but there appear to be shadows at a much larger scale. And that's, I guess, where that's the thrust of my question.
When you say shadow,
Either in terms of
can you common term of reference for shadows? What do you mean by shadow?
I'm talking about, okay, I'm using that as a metaphor for what is sometimes called the dark side and sometimes called evil, and sometimes referenced as those visitors or alien civilizations that have less than positive intentions.
Well, yes,
It's
I got you. I got you.
okay. It's
Right, I got you.
it's whatever scale your experience has shown.
All right.
That's okay.
Okay. So imagine we right now just wondrously, miraculously discovered how to travel faster than the speed of light. Imagine we discovered some way of traveling through wormholes, and we humans, as we are now, show up in another planet, in another civilization. Do you think we'll be as benevolent? Look at who we are. We are a planet of tribal warfare. Interplanetary tribal warfare defines this planet. We are not united. We're divided. We have things called sovereign nations, which divide us. We have social economic classes that divide us. We have racial divides, just based on the vibrational level of one skin color. Basically, remember when I talk about color, it's basically another wavelength of light on a human. Why are we dividing ourselves like that? If we discover a way to travel right now, I wouldn't want us to travel right now. We're not ready to go out there, and we definitely would not be seen as benevolent aliens to another people who may be less advanced than us. So I'm sure that they're flesh and blood extraterrestrials, like us, that whatever physiology they have, they may not have the best interest at heart. Also, the second thing is consider the possibility that we're reading the Bible all wrong, that what you should read, it was that there were two sides. One who wanted to elevate, enhance human consciousness by giving us the tree of knowledge, and another side who wanted to enslave us into worshiping them, who said, this is the tree of life. And just read it all the way different. And oh my goodness, you see everything laid out in terms of an intervention that happened in the human race. Come, let us make man in our image. Think about that. And also, I always ask, to a fundamental, don't want to disparage anyone's belief system. There are people who believe in the literal words they see. And I point out some literal words. Explain to me what this means. And it's Genesis 6, about the Nephilim. There were giants on the earth, the sons of heaven, seeing the sons of the daughters of man being attractive and intermarrying. What is that all about? Right there, there's an extraterrestrial seeing an earth woman and creating hybrids. To me, that is more of an allegory of our hybrid nature, our hybrid existence, and that we may have been very advanced. But how many times have we destroyed ourselves in the past? And maybe there was a group of people that, separated from us, a breakaway. And maybe there are others left in power who were hybrids of another type of alien that are more like reptilian. And maybe they're the ones in charge right now. So this is just food for thought, and it's nothing official from CIA or anybody. This is just me talking, that we have to consider that possibility as well. So there's the shadow side. But I wouldn't want us to go out right now. We're not ready. We're not even, we look at the events of the world. Look what's happening in the Middle East. No way should we be traveling out in space. No way.
So Zenka, where do we go now? Because I really do want to ask your question too.
Okay, well, we'll see if we get to it. It's okay.
Okay.
We have John as part of our community, and we look forward to more interactions. We can always spin off and do other broadcasts, right? And answer it again. It doesn't have to be just the second Friday and the fourth Friday. So I just wanted to, before we go into our contact stories, so this is a chance for you guys to share what your contact experience is like, right? To share your curiosity, your invitation with everybody out there. I also want to let you know that Nadi is having an event, and I'm going to show it here on Saturday.
Oh, that graphic.
Let's see. Oh, is that okay? It's so funny. I love like how it is. Look at the body. It's hilarious. Yeah. So she's just wanted to know, this is some of, she does all sorts of things about, drawing sacred geometry, meditation, sounds, Merkaba fields, all sorts of interesting things. She's got an event tomorrow at 2 to 4 p.m. So I'm going to share that link in the screen. Also, we recently did a fundraiser for our nonprofit so that we can build amazing software for the consortium of groups, and we created NFTs. So who owns a little bit of crypto? Does anybody own crypto? Does anybody figured out their wallet? Okay, good. Well, I encourage you to test out your skills and connect to Rarible or OpenSea, because Nadi has a light body activation NFT here. It's a $100 donation. You get this piece of artwork. You can own your own NFT. And once we fill up the class of 10, she's going to do this really cool session with us. 100% of the money is going to go to support her work in the world. The other NFTs here are going to support programming with Daniel and other things. So we have a channel to the future, which you can get with two of my favorite channelers in the world, Michaela Sheldon and Lincoln Garagar, who are donating for that. We have a past life regression that's incredible, astral travel sessions with Adam Apollo. You can do VR in a float tank, right? So you won't feel your body anymore, you'll have VR. And also the Lucia light, which is, a light that flashes and induces a hypnotic state. I just want to also show you, for those of you that are new tonight to our call, we do have the fourth Friday of every month is going to be with Neil Gar of Portal to Ascension. He has an incredible story about how he went from being a financial advisor to running a huge platform for all these classes. Membership is $4 a month, $4.44 a month, and we encourage you to get on the list to do that, to support the work, and also join us for our fourth Friday member only event. I guess I could ask my question, John. My question was, you talked about the electromagnetic fields here in Sedona. Is that why people see more things here? Who knows? And also the question was, is there other things that people, or is there man-made machines that will amplify, similar to a physical vortex on Earth, someone's electromagnetic fields, helping them make contact with their higher self or other dimensions?
I don't know. I don't think there's, I personally believe that everything you have doesn't need to be amplified. It just needs to be tuned. Mm. It's not an amplification. So you can meditate like there's no tomorrow, and it might not be any effective, but if you have a quality meditation where you're tuning yourself. And the first part of that is to find out, what is your fundamental wavelength? What frequency are you at to begin with? And then to tune to where you want to be. It's more of a tuning. And for me, it was more experimental. And so when I tune to the color green. I oscillate in that color green. And if you look at that prior spectrum, and you can look up the light spectrum anywhere on the web, orange is like 600 nanometers, and green is going to be a little bit longer than that. And so it's a little bit of tuning through. Some people tune yellow, some people tune red. It doesn't matter. You're tuning your own vibrations to that wavelength. And once you tune in, I think you'll find that everything will come through. And for me, I used to see, I can close my eyes and see images develop in my inner mind. or my inner heart? And I tell people, stop thinking with your mind and feeling with your heart. Do the opposite. Why don't you feel with your mind and think with your heart? And that's like flipping the poles a little bit. Just flip it. And basically that flipping of the poles, if you take a magnet and you do this real fast, you know what you create? You create energy. And that's why you see dynamos. They twirl and twirl and twirl and twirl and make energy. So this flipping is what creates the energy. You get a magnet, north and south poles, flip, 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 flip. That's what I do. I tune, not amplify. So I don't know of a machine that can do that, but I know that you don't need to do that.
Very cool.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I have to call Zenka out here just a moment on your question. Like, that was fabulous. Really wanting to hear that. And you skipped the first sentence of your question, which I was really interested in.
Okay, cool. You go for it.
That's
Yeah.
the one I was really hoping you were gonna go for.
Okay. I'm like a techie, man. I'm like because people are taking like copper pills, and maybe you could have like something on your body that's a crystal or a metal. So I was just, and then there's the machines my mind got to, but let's ask
but let's you're so great. Let's maybe finish, because I know we're getting towards the end, but if anybody didn't see it, the first sentence of her question said, "Can you talk more about the Galactic headquarters?" Which I would really like to hear as well. So great, we got the tech part. Can you speak anything to if you visited, or what your intel is on any of that we, I think we all want to be in the Galactic headquarters, and probably everybody on this call would like to be able to get there. So anything that you can, any tips or clues that you can give us about it, we'd love it.
The remote viewing technique is based on a coordinate system, and the coordinates don't really mean anything. It's just that the mind needs to be grounded somewhere in the universe. And so they would like spew out random numbers to be coordinates. In fact, the original name for the remote viewing program was not Stargate, it was called ScanNate, scan by coordinate. And so they just put out a number. And so think about that number, think about where you are. And they would just go into a meditative state, and they describe themselves as feeling themselves in a vortex of energy swirling around. You know that as the Merkaba field, but they were creating Merkaba fields as part of this process. And when they did that, basically they were led to where they needed to go. And so one of the remote viewers, Mel Riley, went to this Galactic headquarters, and he reported it. As he was doing his drawings and remote viewing, it's almost like automatic writing. I took a remote viewing course that was offered by Ed Dames. I actually purchased it. And part of his technique was you get a pad and pencil, and you just like whatever, when you're in that state, you just scribble things, and all of a sudden things started to come to you. And what he imagined was being on another planet, and he saw this lake, and he was led inside this mountain in a hallway, and then there were these beings there, and he was invited to lie down on this bed, basically some platform, and they were all surrounding him and talking to him, and revealed that he was at a Galactic headquarters, and that was all written up. I actually have that report. I can share it. I think I may have shared it in the EXO studies if you look at that, but I don't know how to share that report through EXO Metaverse. Maybe I'll just send it to you, Zenka, so you can probably post it somewhere.
Yeah,
It's all available. That and visiting Mars, which had an ancient civilization on Mars and things like that. So there are a lot of things revealed through these remote viewing sessions, and they're not like, and some of it was like, this is a top secret Russian submarine. Some of it was just nuts and bolts weapons, but a lot of it was really, really esoteric. And so that was not considered unusual until word of it got out, like I said, into the political world, and a lot of forces wanted that shut down because they didn't know what it was. They thought it was all, in fact, a lot of folks in positions of power would think what we're doing is demonic. They would not see this as something positive for humanity. So I would happy to share more about the Galactic headquarters. It goes into great detail.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely share that out with the recording and also the closing survey. So I would we're going to close now. I would just invite you guys to share any other like parting comments. We'll start with Nadi and then go to you, John. Is there anything that you want to share right now with this group and the world in general?
Oh, well, that's fun. I'm feeling really grateful to have had this opportunity. And I think at its core, it's to be with like-minded people who know that there's so much else happening out there and in here, and to validate each other with this knowing, and the drum I'm always beating is about our multidimensionality, right? And I think these conversations really help us to understand how much more of us there is, and so I'm so appreciative. And thank you, Zenka, for hosting the space. And John, thank you so much. And I know there's tech what are angels? I know, thank you, tech angels.
We can thank the tech angels right now before we let John have the final word here tonight. So I want to thank Rob for being on tonight and also helping out with the videos and setting up the restream. You've been amazing. And I also want to thank Greg for his tireless work programming the map. It's really amazing. And Daniel as well. Also want to thank Karina and Sharon and everybody else in the consortium. So thanks for everything you're doing for the movement.
I just want to say, in final words, please treat this sacred vessel we call the human body, treat it with respect, feed it proper foods, proper nutrition, feed it proper liquids. It needs water to survive, or mostly water, because you are a container of that light energy that's within you. And if you're very quiet and very still, tune out the world and tune it in, and you're going to get some remarkable messages. They're waiting to talk to you, but you have to be willing and prepared to listen. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you in a couple weeks. Have a great evening.